Hello everyone from my English Advanced course. I'm going to discuss the homework that I assigned to you. I nicknamed Americanah. It was due on March 20th. So here we are going to talk about the tasks and the solutions, and hopefully you can check if you have everything correct. If you hand in tasks, I will make sure to give you short feedback. However, I'm getting roughly 140 tasks per week back from different students from my classes, so I'm not able to correct them in a very detailed manner. So, your task was to work on pages 36 and 37, exercises 1 through 6, and for exercise 6, I provided a video here which we're going to have a look at as well. As you can see here, Schüleraufgaben, #09 Americanah. This is a link to a OneNote page, and OneNote is this is a link to a OneNote page in your exercise book. So each of you has a OneNote account as well with your team's account, and if you click on this, you will come to your OneNote to your page, in which you can just write in. So you can just say hi. If you have a tablet, you can just use a pen and write in it, or you can type in it. And this is your copy. You do not destroy it for the other people. And this is also how you can hand in your homework. You don't have to upload WhatsApp images like you did, or you don't have to upload Word documents. You can just write it in here and mark the text in here and have a color copy of it. So just use that for the future. It's way easier and more comfortable. And yeah. It will be yours until the Abitur. I will not delete this account, so don't worry about that. So let's get into it. Your tasks, wait a moment, 1 through 6, and the video. Right, so task number 1. Before you read, suggest why people with different cultural backgrounds often think differently about relationships. Read the following extract from the novel Americanah, which is told from the perspective of Ifemelu, a young Nigerian immigrant in the United States. She and her boyfriend Blaine, an African-American professor at Yale University, are at a party hosted by Blaine's sister Shan. They are talking about their attitudes toward interracial dating. So, why do people with different cultural backgrounds often think differently about relationships? Well, the answer is different cultures have different values. Some cultures value are very religious, and religions often value something like marriage. So no premarital sex is something that is not often liked or likely seen in some cultures, and some other cultures think differently about that. Some people think differently about the roles inside marriages and couples. So the man goes to work and provide for the family. That's some cultures, and others say, well, men and women should have the same opportunity and should be all able to work, which is more common in Western society. The different expectations and demands in other cultures, different expectations of children in different cultures. Women's rights are also a topic. Some cultures do not have that many rights for women as in other cultures, which is sad, but true. So here we're going to go through the text. I'm just going to read it, and so you can check your spellings or pronunciation if it's correct. You can read it along and mouth, and hopefully I don't make any stupid mistakes, but we'll see. It's nice how in Europe white men look at you like a woman, not a black woman. Now I don't want to date them, hell no. I just want to know the possibility is there. Blaine was nodding, agreeing. If anybody else had said what Shan did, he would instantly comb through the words in search of a nuance, and he would disagree with their sweep, their simplicity. If Melo had once told him, as they watched a news item about a celebrity divorce, that she did not understand the unbending, unambiguous honesties that Americans required in relationships. "What do you mean?" he asked her. And she heard a looming disagreement in his voice. Um, ah, disagreement in his voice. He too believed in unbending, unambiguous honesties. "It's different from me, and I think it's because I'm from the third world. To be a child of the third world is to be aware of the many different constituencies you have, and how honesty and truth doesn't always depend on context." Honesty and truth depends on context. Very interesting. She had felt clever to have thought of this explanation, but Blaine shook his head even before she finished speaking and said, "That is so lazy to use the third world like that." Now he was nodding as Shen said, "Europeans are not as conservative and uptight about relationships as Americans are." So now we get into the topic of relationships. Up until here, we're more talking about honesty. We're talking about we're unbending, unambiguous honesty. So in the US, this is the kind of honesty that is required. And according to this character, because I'm from the third world, honesty and truth. I'm kind of stupid. Why I'm not just using a text marker like I'm telling you to do? Honesty and truth must always depend on context. So unambiguous here is clear. When do you say what? That is kind of the idea here. You do not say everything at all the time, but in a different situation, you tell the truth or you don't. Right, now we get more into the topic of relationships. Now he was nodding as Shannon said, "Europeans are just not as conservative and uptight about relationships as Americans are. In Europe, the white men are thinking, 'I just want a hot woman.' In America, the white men are thinking, 'I won't touch that black woman because but I could do Halle Berry.'" Maybe you remember Halle Berry. She's an American actress, African American actress who played in a Bond movie once. "That's funny," Blaine said. "Of course, there's the niche of white men in the country who will only date black women, but that's kind of a fetish, and it's nasty." So, sexual fetish. Shen said, and then turned her glazing gaze on Efemelu. Efemelu was almost reluctant to disagree. Now, Shen, Blaine, and now I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. Actually, my experience has been the opposite. I get a lot more interest from white men than from American men here. Really? Shen paused. "I guess it's your exotic credential. Exotic credential, that whole authentic African thing," which is kind of racist. It stung her, the rub of Shan's dismissal, and then it became a prickling resentment directed at Blaine. So, that was kind of a racial slur, racial insinuation. Hope I spelled that correctly. It stung her, right, because she wished he would not agree so heartily with his sister. Shan's phone rang again. "Oh, that had better be David." She took the phone into the bedroom. "David is her editor. They want to put this sexualized image, a black torso, on her cover, and she's fighting it," Blaine said. All right, so let's talk about the tasks. Comprehension. Summarize the character's views on interracial relationships and dating attitudes in Europe and the US. So, we start with Shan. Europeans are often more towards Europeans are pro interracial relationships. See that in line 1 following and also later. But they have different qualities they're looking for in a partner. Right. So, for example, in Europe, here he starts. In Europe, Europeans are not as uptight. In Europe, the white men are thinking they just want a hot woman. In America, the white men are thinking, I won't touch that except Halle Berry. So he says Europeans are more pro relationship with interracial relationships. Okay, let's talk about Blaine. Blaine, it's a little bit more difficult. Blaine wishes for full truthfulness in a relationship. And otherwise, other characters say that Shan says that truthfulness depends on the context. Right. Ifemelu. Many American men are interested in interracial relationships, and that depends on the cultural background and experiences. Here, Ifemelu was almost reluctant to disagree. It was strange how much she wanted Shan to like her. My experiences have been the opposite. I get more interest from white men than from African Americans. Okay. According to Ifemelu, task 3, Americans and people from the third world have a different concept concerning the quality of relationships. Fill in the table with opposing concepts. So, Americans, what are their concept of a relationship? There was a nice quote here. Americans like unbending, unambiguous honesty. Unbending, unambiguous honesty. That's 10 following. Truth. Absolute truth and honesty are required here. Um, right. People from the third world, according to relationships, are not just based on truth but on context. When was it? Um, honesty and truth depend on context. Right. The attitude towards relationships and how they should be handled depend on the context. It's not one concept. So attitudes not as fixed as in America. Right. 4. Explain why Ifemelu is disappointed in Shen and even angry at Blaine. So lines 41 to 44. It stung her, the rub of Shen's dismissal, and then it became a prickling resentment directed at Blaine. Really? I guess it's your exotic credential, the whole authentic African thing. So, Ifemelu, shit. Sorry about that. Ifemelu, she is Blaine, reduces her to something like an exotic animal, basically. Like somebody is watching her in the zoo, like she's from a zoo. She's something new and not a person, but something new and exotic, which is what she's presenting. 5. Visuals. In an increasing proportion of Nigerian women are experiencing their sexual debut before turning 15. Now we're going to talk about that. Okay. This early sexual debut often results in multiple sexual partners, leading to an increase in the risk of sexual transmitted diseases, or STDs. Look at the visual below and describe it to your partner. Discuss why it is or isn't important to talk about sexually transmitted infections and diseases. So, partner A, partner B, word fields, and the bigger the words are, the more often they are talked about. Remember when we talked about Adichie's speech, the danger of a single story? That is also the danger here. The danger that we're only reducing talking about sexual transmitted diseases and something like HIV, AIDS, and when we talk about Africa. So we need to be careful with that. Discuss why it is or isn't important to talk about those diseases and infections. Well, yes, there is a part of the population in many African countries, like in Nigeria, that have sexually transmitted diseases like HIV/AIDS. However, that also takes place here in Germany and in other countries. So if you ever see those advertisements at bus stations about STDs, yes, they do exist, some things like syphilis and so on. So you need to know about that, and you need to protect yourself. That's kind of the point of this entire thing. So it's not just in Africa, but also in the Western world. called sexual education. That's why we do that in school. All right, so the last exercise was a viewing exercise, and I linked the video to this. First, read all the tasks and then watch the video clip. Watch again and tick one correct answer below. The main topic of this video clip is making big money. Well, no, sorry. Reducing sexually transmitted infections or finding sexual partners with the help of SlideSafe. Well, no, it's not a Tinder dating service. It's reducing sexually transmitted infections too. Uzaru wants young people to have safer sex. All right, by selling cheap condoms and self-testing kits, by sending them to doctors and nurses, by counseling them personally. So she's doing that by selling cheap condoms and self-testing kits. Why not doctors and nurses? Kids are scared to go to a doc, stigmatized. They could be stigmatized for going to a doctor in their hometown, as sex is a difficult topic for many to talk about, and there are countries in which, for example, homosexuality is still illegal and punishable by prison time, or even worse. So if you live in a stringent society that does not allow talking about sex or having sex before you get married, this is the result, and that's why she sells these kits in an anonymous packaging, as you could see here in the video. I'm not going to show it because I don't want to get copyright stricken, but the packages here are very the packages are okay, good. The packages are not showing, it doesn't have a big label, sex, STD testing kit, and so on. All right, 3, fluoride. Uzaru says that talking about sex is important. Sex openly stigmatizes. Talking about sex openly stigmatizes people, or talking about sex openly would solve many problems. Well, it's a difficult one because people should talk about sex because it would solve many problems. So you could answer all 3, to be honest here, because it is important to talk about sex. She does that, but it also stigmatizes people. I think that's what they were going for here. All right, Nigeria has 3.2 million people infected with HIV. But only 10% have taken an HIV test. Only women take HIV tests, but only rich people can afford the test. The 2 here are not true. Only 10% have taken the test. And that's very important, because if you don't know that you have this disease, you will spread it further, corona. And if you do not know, you cannot get help, medical help. Well, that's a long video for a lot of tasks. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it helped you. As they say, leave a thumbs up, comment if you like, and if you have any further questions, please ask them in Teams. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.